The information shared on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. While we discuss topics related to mental health, well-being, and emotional support, we are not providing therapy or medical services. Always seek the advice of your physician, psychologist, psychiatrist, or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a mental health condition. If you are in crisis, feeling unsafe, or need immediate support, please contact a mental health professional or emergency services in your area. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of any affiliated organizations or institutions.
Get inspired, get motivated with M.A.Y.A and the M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition podcast.
Something that I take pride in is trying to be forward thinking, thinking outside the box, challenging myself. And as I challenge myself, hopefully I challenge you.
Find M.A.Y.A on Twitter and Instagram at M.A.Y.A_Akai. On Facebook at M.A.Y.A Akai Presents.
We're going to talk health, wealth, fitness, mental health, financial, lots of different things that can empower you as you seek out the ambition that you're pursuing.
Or get everything M.A.Y.A at M.A.Y.A_Akai.com.
Namaste, everyone. Welcome to another episode of M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. And I'm really excited about this particular episode for lots of reasons. Because as you know, we are winding down Mental Health Awareness Month. That was May. Hopefully you knew something about it and at least maybe carved out a day or two to do something for yourself. But you probably didn't, but it's okay. But either way, I'm really excited that we're going to end the month. And this last show is going to address the connection between mental health and physical health. You often hear gut health is mental health and probably have no idea what that actually means. Well, today we're going to dive deep into understanding that connection, what it really means. And we're going to discuss how your mindset can, without a question, save your life. How you think influences how you feel, and how you feel, more likely than not, is going to determine how you act or how you choose to behave. So, what if I told you you are sabotaging your health simply by failing to be mindful of how you eat? What you eat fuels your brain, your heart, and etc. And a poor diet can lead to many symptoms, including, actually, believe it or not, some mental health issues. It's as simple as understanding that food is fuel, like octane, so to speak. And the quality of the food and the nutrients you decide to put into your body is either going to be high octane fuel. And if you know anything about gas, I like to give real life examples to people because I feel like they can wrap their minds around when I talk about things like this. So if you think about high octane fuel, that fuel is ultimately created, it's going to preserve your engine and keep your fuel injectors running good. Hence, you have a cleaner engine, cleaner fuel, and it's designed to yield a higher performance for your vehicle. On the flip side, if you're filling your car with the lowest octane, I think it's 85 or something like that. Low octane often is very watered down and it's not as refined as high octane. So thus it can clog your fuel injectors, which directly is going to affect how your engine performs. Your body is the same way. So food and nutrients is fuel, and how you decide to feed yourself is going to determine how your overall health is. So your mindset has the power to change everything. It might even save your life, like I said earlier, especially when it comes to your health. So in this episode of M.A.Y.A, we're going to learn how changing your mindset could be just the thing that obviously is going to improve your life, your health, and your overall wellness. And we're having that conversation with our guest today, Shauntra Osborne. She's going to join us to discuss how the way you think directly influences how you manage your health. And if you are not informed, then let's be honest about something, then you're not empowered. And if you're not empowered, then you're not living your life with intention. And if you're not living with intention, guess what? You're probably putting anything into your body, not realizing what a detriment it really can be. Now, as you know, I am a major advocate for the benefits of holistic medicine. And I feel the more that people know about it, the more likely they are to make better choices, not always feeling like something has to be prescribe to fix their problem. So we're going to go to our expert who's going to help us figure this out. Because I'll be honest, it isn't something that's necessarily easy to figure out on your own. But that's why I'm here. Because remember, I say, when we talk about mental health, it touches so many domains in your life. It's not just about the emotion. It's not just about how you think. It also, mental health influences your finances. It influences all of your relationships, your work relationships, personal relationships. It may even influence your spirituality, your financial being, but also your health. So this particular episode, we are focused on health. So without further ado, let's bring on to the stage our guest who's going to educate you, empower you, Shauntra Osborne. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Maya. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here because when I came across you just on a whim, I love when I come across people who are into holistic, medicine, functional wellness, all these terms, which often feel like buzz terms. They really do. Because people hear holistic health and they're like, well, what does that mean? Like, am I supposed to be just juicing all the time and eating vegetables? In their mind, that's what they think. Or they hear functional wellness and they go, I really don't know what that means. So one, I really want to educate our guests because as we know, this is your area of expertise. And there is definitely a distinct difference in, I would say, traditional medicine and what you actually do. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with my guests because you're a board certified health, holistic health practitioner. You also obviously do the functional wellness piece. You're an educator. And of course, you took all this and you founded Change Mindset Wellness. So with that being said, a lot of people, as I said, probably have no clue when I say holistic health or even functional wellness, what that means. Can you explain to my listeners what that actually means?
Yes. So being a board certified holistic health practitioner means I'm looking at everything as a whole aspect to what may be going on with someone. I personally dive deeper into the why behind you're having these symptoms. What's the root cause behind why you're feeling the way you feel? That's how I approached it with my own personal health and journey. That's what sparked my interest in it. And it became my passion to help others learn how to do the same thing. So looking at the whole body as an aspect, meaning your spirituality, your nutrition, your mental health, your environment, how you're internally feeling plays a part overall in your well-being and some of the symptoms. And then I dig deeper into it by bringing on functional tools like hair tissue mineral analysis testing, functional lab work, functional assessments to kind of get this whole picture for the individual so that they can see how their symptoms are connected to what they're feeling. And then the evidence is the scientific proof with the testing.
So that right there within itself sounds like an entirely different relationship that we might have to general practitioners. Often a person will go to a doctor with probably a stated complaint, like I've been having ongoing headaches. And then obviously there's a process of even lab work, which is probably a lot less streamlined or like specific. So when you start working with somebody, and actually, I guess, let me add this question because people might ask this question. How is your training different than, let's say, a general practitioner or even like a nurse practitioner? Because we understand, okay, they go to school, they do like their board stuff and then, they're certified. How is your training different than theirs? Let's kind of put that on the table as well.
So for my training, I'm digging into what the person may be seeing overall. Like I said, integrative health. I like to pair traditional medicine with holistic medicine because it's also important. I'm not the kind of practitioner that's just going to solely focus on holistic care because I use functional tools like the hair test and lab work. Those are still really important and that helps us determine what's going on. The only difference for me personally is I do not treat or diagnose. But when it comes to assessments, understanding the biochemistry of the body, the mental aspect, the emotional aspect, it all plays tied one in hand. That will only be the main difference, that I do not diagnose and I do not treat. However, I can work alongside your general practitioner or your doctor as an extension of care for that holistic aspect of yourself, so that you can have the overall well-being and care that you're looking for. So I work hand in hand with both kind of different clients, I guess you would say. Some who just want to focus on holistic and take the traditional medicine out of it, and some who still believe in going to doctors. I work with them, with their doctors, hand in hand as well.
And I think what you just said is important for people to understand. Your role in partnering with them, because to me, this sounds way more like a partnership. I'll be
Mhm.
honest, it is rare you deal with a general practitioner and ever feel like it's a partnership.
Mhm.
You feel like you're going into that appointment with, a stated complaint and they're going to listen if you're lucky, and then maybe a lab, maybe a prescription for something. But one of the things that I hear from most people is they never really feel seen or heard by their practitioners. It does not feel like a partnership. So here
Mhm.
I feel like I'm hearing this is a partnership. You're going to bring some concerns that you have. And the reason I really love holistic medicine is several years ago, I ended up having an issue, an autoimmune issue that came out the blue.
Mhm.
And I tried traditional medicine, and I found out that I had something called dermatographia, which is called the skin writing disease, autoimmune. But so I go to my doctor. We could pinpoint what it is, but what was
Mhm.
interesting is we didn't know why.
Mhm.
And we did the allergy test, and they came back and said, we have no idea why you're responding, but we did know that a steroid could suppress it. Well,
Mhm.
we weren't going to keep me on steroids for a long period. And so they prescribed me something else that actually worked. And then the response I got was, well, we could also put you on this injection and it should deal with the issue. But my issue was, so wait, we know what I have, but we don't know why. So we're just going to keep treating something, but not know why I have the issue. That really bothered me. And then
Mhm.
I was talking to some people who had been working with holistic practitioners, and they made the recommendation to me. And this is where I found out that I actually had an allergy to artificial sweeteners that I didn't know. And boy, was I using it, because I like my coffee. I like my coffee with cream and sugar, so I like it sweet, right? So I
Yeah.
was trying to cut back on sugar by using more Equal and Splenda, not realizing that I had a sensitivity to it. And when I went to the holistic practitioner, she did a whole different set of tests that nobody had ever done, and pinpointed it that day and told me what was going on. And I was like, "Are you serious? It's that
Mhm.
simple.
Mhm.
I'm allergic to Splenda and Equal. I can use other more holistic, like stevia, like those type. I can use
Yeah.
those type of sweeteners, but I can't use the true artificials." I would have never have figured that out based on traditional medicine. It was someone who wanted to get to the why I was experiencing this response and not just treat it. And this
Mhm.
is why I encourage people to take another look at holistic medicine when you
Mhm.
feel traditional medicine has failed you. So,
Right. Right. And that's something that I really appreciate about the holistic field of medicine and care. We're we have the ability to slow down a little bit more so that we can ask those deep questions. And for me personally, that's where the mindset comes into play, because it's super important to understand the why behind the symptom. And that's how I approached my own wellness journey when I started to feel really bad and I hit my downfall. I had to sit in that to understand why, because I was going to the doctor, I was saying everything that I was feeling, but I still wasn't feeling heard, seen, and understood. And that left me feeling discouraged. And if I felt discouraged, I know there's tons of other women who feel discouraged. And as I continued on through my journey, I started to understand that trauma played a big part of it. How I thought about things played a big part of it. And then it just got to the point where my body just started to completely shut down, where it forced me to say, okay, why? What's the reason? Where's this root pain or emotion or sickness? Where is it coming from? You generally are healthy, you do everything you're supposed to do, but you still don't feel well. And that's when I got deeper into it and wanted to start to incorporate testing into my practice, because I was eating healthy, I was taking all my supplements, I was on the right vitamins, but I still didn't feel good. So something was missing. And
mhm.
that's how I came across the hair test and discovered, oh my gosh, it's more than just nutrition and it's more than just what you're taking for supplements. You have to understand what area of the body is being affected so that you know what to do to restore it. And that plays a part with everything: how you think, what you speak, how you feel, your environment, people, like everything plays a part in your energy field. So I really had to dig deep within myself and take myself through the own process so that I can educate and share this information with other people.
And I'm loving the fact that you rolled into the way that you were thinking. There was trauma that was clearly impacting your overall health. A lot
Mhm.
of people don't realize that when you are under continual duress, meaning your mental health, and I always tell people I have this kind of way that I perceive the idea of mental health. I say it really exists in three phases. So mental wellness is where you're trying to create balance in your life. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be hard days. You're not going to have a situation happen that kind of throws you off, but you're finding balance in how you're living. You're taking care of your health, your emotion, all those things. You're good. If something comes up, opposed to trying to push it down and ignore that it's a real issue that you're having and that you're struggling, you're depressed, you acknowledge it and you seek help. When people choose not to seek help is when I say you go from having, mental wellness into mental health issues. So now maybe let's say you had a loss of someone in your family, or you lost your job, or you go through a divorce, whatever it is. So now you have the stress that's weighing down on you. It might create depression or anxiety, whatever it is. And if you don't choose to treat it, all of a sudden that balance really starts to get out of whack. And I tell people, when you fail to address when a mental health issue surfaces, it can easily turn into mental illness, which is now you have something where it is affecting almost every aspect of your life. And people don't realize, when you are not right from the neck up, legitimately, your day is not going to go well. You're going to struggle at work. Your relationships are going to suffer. All these things matter, your health, and it's that mindset of understanding that you have to have balance. And I tell people that is the mental wellness connection, that the way you think is going to influence how you feel and how you act. And I'm glad you said that by not addressing trauma, we all know that trauma, we don't all know this. From mental health practitioners, we realize that trauma sits at a cellular level. So we can take trauma and we can often call it stress. And here's the problem. Many people normalize trauma and they normalize stress. So they don't understand that their hypertension and high blood pressure and these recurring headaches and constant fatigue could be about the life you're living, or the life you're not living is now impacting your physical health. So I'm glad you said that. You heard it from someone who believes in changing mindset from a medical standpoint and how it impacts your mental health. Okay. So say I show up at your door, right? And I say, Shauntra, the struggle is real right now. I'm working out. I think I'm eating good, but yet I'm constantly fatigued. My hair is thinning. I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, oh, my biggest thing going on now. I've tried this particular product that told me it was going to stop my hair from falling out. I took this product because it told me it was going to help me, lose weight. And guess what? None of these things have worked for me. I am so absolutely I'm frustrated. Can you help me? What do I do?
Okay, so from that point, well, first, before I begin, I want everyone to know that a part of my education, I decided to specialize in particular things, and these things are my direct reflection of my journey as well. So that includes adrenal fatigue, chronic stress, mineral imbalances, nervous system support, and root cause wellness education. The reason why this is the meat and potatoes of my business is because when we are highly stressed, our minerals start to deplete. And when our minerals start to deplete, we start to have signs and symptoms that something is wrong. When we start to ignore those signs and symptoms for a long period of time, that's when we're prone to getting into deeper medical conditions and diseases like states. So the first place that we would begin is an assessment, asking you particular questions to kind of pinpoint what part of your life you're having some difficulties in. Is it environmental? Is it work related? Is it family related? Is it something personal? Is it personal trauma? Once I'm able to determine what that is, I always start everyone off with a hair test, because your minerals are the blueprint to your life. It's what's being stored internally on a cellular level over a time span, so that I can see what the trend and what the pattern is. Once we do your hair test and I'm able to help you connect your symptoms to your mineral ratios, we go forward with a mineral program. Now the goal is to restore and balance the body, not detox, restore and maintain the body system. When we're highly stressed, when we're highly depleted, detoxing is something that you absolutely do not want to do. Your body cannot maintain that kind of stress because it's already in a chronic state of stress. So we have to teach you how to, number one, change your mindset so that you can start thinking and believing. Now you have the proof to see what could be possibly happening. From there, we are teaching the body how to calm down. That's that nervous system care. The body cannot restore and process the things that it needs to if it's in a state of anxiety and fear. Internally, it's trying to calm you down, but on the outside, now we have to do the work. Once we go through that process for about 3 or 4 months, if additional testing is needed, Then we go through that story of what that looks like, where, in what area, what system you're thinking you might want to explore. I always give my clients the opportunity to do whatever it is they want to do. I'm not the kind of practitioner who will just stay in one main focus area, push things on you before you're ready, or try to create these large packages. We move slow, we move intentional, and we move meaningful. If we do need to do additional testing, then we continue going through that. On the outside, I'm still showing you things to do, how to change that mental state, how to incorporate nutritional balancing based off of your minerals, not just what the trend is on social media or what this person is saying you should eat,
Mhm.
what you physically need. So everything is very individualized for each and
Okay.
every person.
Mhm.
And then we just continue working back and forth until you can get to the point where you say, okay, Shauntra, I'm good. I'm done.
You pointed out two things that for me was like, again, I totally believe in, but you said something else that I think most people would not even think like, oh, that, why would that? You said you go with a hair strand test versus most people, the only real type of testing they're used to from their practitioners are blood tests. You know, you go in, if you do an annual physical, they usually run a whole panel of different tests that they've done, you know, the CMP, the CBC, all that kind of stuff, which is supposed to give you an overall snapshot. And it does show some deficiencies, clearly, it does. And it can show where there's some things maybe going on. So, interesting enough, is a hair test more efficient than an actual just blood test? What's like the subtle differences between them?
So for me personally, this is my personal opinion now, I feel that it is a little bit more accurate because it's over the time span of 3 to 4 months. It's a snapshot. So the way I explain it to clients when I'm on a call with them, when they're asking about blood work or they're showing me their lab work, and I'm going over through the interpretations with them, blood work is still really good. We're not going to rule that out. It's learning how to pair all these different testing systems to create that overall blueprint for yourself, right? Blood work is the gas of the car. It's going to be the get you to going back and forth, what's floating around, what's being utilized, but it's not showing you what's not being utilized all the time.
Mm.
Hair test is the maintenance of your vehicle. What's going to keep that engine turning over and over and over again? What's going to get you from point A to point B and beyond, right? So hand in hand, I start at hair test first, especially if I'm picking up the cues that a client is really chronically stressed or had some trauma, and then I match it with their blood work. It's going to say the same thing, but in a different story and into a different depth of what's happening, because now we're going over systems, your adrenal area, your thyroid, your insulin resistance. So now we're being able to connect those symptoms to the ratios. Whereas when you're getting blood work done, you're still saying, I still feel off. I still feel fatigue. I still have brain fog, but my labs are normal. Well, normal is not optimal. And the hair test is what's getting you into that optimum range.
Okay, that they're well explained. The next thing you said that I'm just gonna double down on with you because I think it's important for people to know as we live in a world now where with social media everybody is pushing something at you. The thing I want people to realize is I always say this: mental health is not one size fits all. So what you might be experiencing and struggle with, yes, it may be called depression, but the reasons for it and how it's impacting your life may be entirely different than somebody else. That's a piece. But also, I would say the same thing comes with nutrition, that it's not one size fits all. So I caution people when you often see this product that has this kind of claim that it can like fix everything for everybody, you should step back and ask yourself, that may not be the right fit for me though, because I actually don't know why I'm having these issues. So why should I just buy something with the idea that is going to fix the problem when I actually don't know what the problem is? I just know I'm experiencing and I'm having an issue, but I don't know what the root cause of it is. And that's why I caution people, don't quickly just take the claims that this is going to be the fix all, because a lot of times, and I'm going to tell you something, I'm guilty of it. I used to buy things, try things, and sometimes I saw some results, sometimes I saw nothing. And I stepped back and I said, well, wait a minute here, this is really no different than when I work with people that struggle with their psychotropic medication prescriptions. And they'll say, I've been on this medication for depression for this long and nothing is working. Then we kind of back engineer things for them. Well, how long? Tell me more about frequency, duration, and intensity. of the symptoms that you were having? How do we know things weren't resolved? And so we kind of do that backward to say, okay, maybe this doesn't work for you. But we now have a test called GeneSight that actually looks at the individual. It's a swab of someone's saliva, and it looks at them as an individual. And what that now tells practitioners, you're going to do better with this SSRI versus this one, because based on your brain chemistry, you need this neural pathway open and you don't have it. So now we have this tool. I feel what you do is looking at that unique person, what their issues are, what is their DNA. And you're going to find out, people, this is a menu. You are a menu of things going on that
Mm-hmm.
need to be looked at. So take heed of when she says you're an individual, and the testing that's done is very specific to you to get to the root cause, which probably then moves into your system of analysis, which I learned the root framework, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
So
Tell us.
my root framework is something that I created on my own. Like I said, based off of everything that I'm doing inside internally in my business is based off of what I personally did for myself first. So my root framework is simple: recognize, observe, optimize, transform, or test. And what that means is I'm helping you recognize symptoms and patterns without feeling shameful, right? We go to our doctors, we're talking to them through a state of emotion. And that's something that I like to educate my clients on too. Journaling is super, super important. So when we're recognizing, we are journaling. I'm giving you a set of questions to go through to figure out what you're feeling and that why, that root cause behind it, right? Because it's very important, if you are going to work with a traditional doctor, that you speak from a place of symptoms and frequency versus emotion, because emotion can change from day to day. And sometimes that's when we don't feel like we're being heard. So let's recognize those symptoms and those patterns. Let's jot those down in our journal so that we are thinking from a place of clarity. The next thing is to observe. Observing your life habits, your stress load, your nutrition, your digestion, your emotional triggers. Again, journaling is super important. That's that mindset shift now that we're starting to do. So as you're observing, or as I'm asking you questions and I'm helping you learn how to observe, we're starting to pinpoint what the trend is with your overall well-being. Then we move into optimize, and optimizing is through mineral balancing after you take a hair test, through nutrition, through your nervous system support, hydration, movement, balance. Let's start getting that stagnant energy and that trauma moved out of your system so that you can start thinking clearly and you can start recognizing these things on your own. Then we move into transform, which is utilizing the tools like the hair test, functional wellness education, more additional functional testing, because now we understand what the problem could be. So now let's transform all of these new positive habits so that the outcome is I'm feeling great. I have my energy back. I know how to recognize these things on my own and I can move forward. The goal with me is not to have a client to stay with me for 5 years. If you're with me for 5 years or a year, I feel like I failed you, because I'm here to help you understand the root pattern, teach you how to recognize, observe, optimize, and transform it so that you can take the control back of your own health and well-being, and you can do these things on your own. I'm always going to be an extension of care. I'm always going to be an extension of support, but the goal is to teach you these tools so that you know how to do that for yourself.
And and another reason I would say there's so much value in working with you in a world where there is a million products out there, and I mean there's a ton. I mean that are manufactured. To be honest, trying to even choose a product that you think is a good product, a quality product, is hard because so many things are being marketed. So to be able to work with a practitioner that can say, look, when you're looking for products, here's what you should be looking for. This is where you know it's a clean product. It doesn't have too many additives to it, like, or even like, let's say the absorption, because how products are made, they don't all absorb the same either. So to be able to bounce that off someone and not just buy something and you feel like, I bought this product, I've been taking it, it's not working. Well, maybe it's not a really quality product that's going to have the outcome that you would think they would have. So you said the word minerals, which we don't hear that word a ton, in conversations. You talk about health and wellness. Tell us, like, why are minerals important?
Minerals are important because they are the spark plugs of life. That's how I like to explain it. There you go. if you have an imbalance in your minerals, then you're going to have an imbalance somewhere in your system, whether that's in your digestion, your energy output, your stress overload, your nervous system, how you're able to even process protein can be affected if you have a mineral imbalance. I have a lot of people that I've worked with who say I became vegan because I realized when I was eating meat, I couldn't tolerate it. I've been there, personal experience, right? I stopped eating meat completely to where it's probably down to like 1 or 2 times a day. And I was doing more harm to myself than I was doing any good. And I didn't learn that until I did my hair test. In fact, that I'm supposed to eat meat 3 times a day with every meal because I'm a slow oxidizer, which means I metabolize my food a lot slower because of this. And that was due to a sodium and potassium imbalance. So when you have an imbalance in your system, you're not able to maintain the proper nutrients that you need. So in reality, minerals help you feel your optimal best. And if you're not feeling your best, there's a deficiency somewhere, there's an elevation somewhere. For instance, high calcium on a hair test means that you are stress buffering. Your body is naturally trying to calm itself down internally. But then on the flip side, your magnesium is too low. So now we have that chronic stress state that we're moving into. Once we're able to balance out that calcium, bring the magnesium up, the nervous system starts to calm down. Now, what are some of the signs and symptoms? You're going to be irritable, you're going to have brain fog, you're going to have muscle tension, muscle cramps, because the two are not in equal level with each other. So understanding those things is really helpful. High sodium can also affect your output for your hypertension. People think, oh, I need to cut back on sodium. Well, no, what's your sodium to potassium ratio? That doesn't necessarily mean you're eating too much sodium or you don't have enough sodium. It's the balance between the two. So that's something that's super important to understand. Zinc is another one. Your zinc to copper ratio can affect your fertility, your menstrual, PCOS, endometriosis, all those different things. If 1 and 2 are not at the same equal level, then we start having signs and symptoms. So when I have people that come to me with these kind of conditions, that's what I'm looking for to see what's happening. And then I confirm it through the hair test.
Okay. So you said something that I think is interesting because a lot of people probably have these issues and don't realize it because they're focusing on where is my vitamin D level or where is my potassium level, not realizing that minerals within themselves obviously interact with each other. So when we see it that way, what are some possible causes of mineral imbalances? Like you mentioned, someone being vegan, not realizing they could be creating deficits, but what are some possible other reasons why people could have a mineral imbalance?
You can have a mineral imbalance if you are highly stressed. That's the number one thing that will start to deplete your minerals. Hormones are off. Gut health, if you have an imbalanced gut or your gut's not properly working. Fatigue. Are you the type of person who works overnight? Do you work long shifts? Do you only get 3, 4 hours of sleep? Those key areas of how you're treating your body on the outside can start to determine what's happening on the inside as well. Blood sugar. Are you someone who, and I'm not necessarily like a diabetic, but when we think about blood sugar, that's the first thing that we go to. But what's your diet like? Are you eating a lot of carbs? Are you eating a lot of high sugary fruits? Where's the system trying to tell you that something is wrong? So anything on the outside world can trigger an imbalance in your minerals, which is why it's super important to learn what your triggers are, where your mindset is at that key moment, because what you start to think internally starts to affect everything else. It's so important. And that's something that I stress myself on. That's why it's part of the name of my business, Change Mindset Wellness, because mindset is key to the beginning of how you begin to feel inside.
And a couple things that I always encourage people to do, and I know, and when I met you, I went to your website. By the way, everybody, if you think I need a reset, I need to know more because I've been struggling with some things and I don't feel like I've gotten the answers. Top in the corner of the screen, you'll see a QR code that you can scan that's going to take you to the website for Change Mindset Wellness, and you'll learn more about Shauntra and what she offers. Great information. And two of the things that I noticed when I was going through your page and getting my early education before sitting down with you, and it's something I talk about with people, know your family history. Now, mind you, it's the idea of like, I always say, know your family history. Is there a history of cardiac issues or, hypertension or things like this? Obesity, even hair loss. Know that history. But a history I would never think to say is, what's your family's overall health in regards to like, mineral imbalances? I would never think to explore that because it's not something that's presented as this should be top of mind. It's definitely something that's a part of the conversation.
Absolutely. And even if you don't know your family history, like I come from a family where I really don't know much of my family history. So this is why this work and what I do for myself is super important because I am walking blind when it comes to a lot of things with my own health. So teaching myself how to listen and understand and feel and process became key. It got to the point where if I'm feeling off, like right now, I'm expecting, right?
Oh,
And I was feeling off one day, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I'm eating right. I'm taking my prenatals. I'm hydrating. I'm doing all this stuff, but something feels off. I'm having symptoms of almost what you would think that diabetes, right? And I'm like, okay, wait, this can't be happening. So I sat with myself and I said, okay, you're hydrating, you're drinking all this water, but water can dehydrate you. What are you missing? Minerals. So now I'm putting electrolytes in my water, and those symptoms started to go away. So it's just learning those things, even with internally how you're feeling. Is it connected to something that's really wrong? Is it connected to an imbalance in your minerals? Is it connected to something emotional on the outside? Asking yourself questions is so important when you're trying to advocate for yourself because you'll know where to go when the time is right. And then that takes the guesswork out of it. It takes the extra Googling out of it, and it takes the fear out of it. And that's why I educate in this way and I support my clients in this way because it really comes down to you and the choices that you make for yourself.
one of the other things that was on there that I think a lot of people need to take note of, because this could be a lot of people could be impacted by this, is that medication, whether it's prescription or even over the counter OTCs, can deplete body nutrients and minerals. That's something that a lot of people probably didn't think. Well, if I'm taking my blood pressure medication, often if people are taking a water pill in combo with their high blood pressure medication, that could actually create some other deficits. And what's interesting is that's not a conversation or an education piece that most people's traditional practitioners even talk about. Like, in taking this, be mindful that you make sure you do this, this, or this. A lot of people put you on a medication without really talking to you about what could be some possible side effects of you taking this medication that you should be mindful of.
Absolutely. And that's something that I incorporate into my wellness consultations as well. I always ask for your most recent labs. I always ask for a medication list because you're right. There's certain herbs and certain minerals and certain vitamins that you can't take together, or you can't take it all because of the medication. So that's something that's really important that I like to stress and that I educate on as well, just so that I can make sure as I'm building your protocol, we're staying as safe as possible. So I do medication interpretations for people who are just interested in that, and give you that information so that you are aware, because most of the time they don't tell you that when you go to a doctor. And that's the missing piece when it comes to traditional and holistic. You have to see the whole system, everything all in one.
Okay. So we think about all these different, possible causes of why we could have this deficiency. And I know people would say, okay, so Maya, you're saying there's like, a mental health, connection to this. What does that look like? Well, when we talk about the gut health is mental health, what most people don't realize is obviously you need to feed your brain. It does need certain nutrients to really perform optimally. And a lot of people don't realize that. So whatever you put obviously into, your gut, your stomach, it's going to affect every aspect of your life. Most people don't even realize that you have serotonin receptors in your stomach. And so when you actually eat, your whole mental health processing begins in the gut, because food is then, broken down. those serotonin, receptors in your stomach are looking to grab it. If you don't know, serotonin, dopamine, these are the things that regulate mood, your happy chemicals, things like that. So when you have a poor diet that's depleted of nutrients that your brain needs, guess what? It can affect your overall mental health. But I saw something fantastic on your page, and I was singing your praises all week, by the way. I said you gave this great infographic about ADHD in children. A lot of people don't realize, and I say this, there can be holistic options to things like ADHD, anxiety, depression, even menopause. I said, but you have to understand what you're dealing with, what's unique about you to address it. Talk a bit about ADHD when you talk about changing your mindset that it doesn't have to be a prescription medication to manage that.
Okay, so with ADHD, like I said, minerals are like the body's communication system. So same thing with ADHD. It's going to help when you have the proper minerals stored in your system. If you have this condition, it's going to help regulate your brain function, your mood, your hormones, your blood sugar, even your blood pressure. One important in conversation that's happening right now that I'm noticing amongst a lot of women with children, especially who have children who are ADHD, is diet. And when I ask them key questions when it comes to their diet, it's a lot of high processed foods. It's a lot of artificial flavorings and colors. It's a lot of high inflammatory foods as well. So when we start to eliminate those things and then properly supplement with the right vitamins and minerals and nutrients, and also healing the gut so that it can absorb these nutrients and minerals, then those ADHD symptoms start to slow down. For me personally, my son is very hyperactive. I've never really considered him diagnosed with ADHD or anything like that. He's just very active. But because of that, I've also started to adjust his diet, utilize a hair test with him every 3 months because food changes, so should our diet and our habits change as well, right? And as I start to remove certain foods and incorporate different whole grains or leafy greens and just less carbs, his overall system starts to calm down. So when we think of ADHD, we're looking at zinc. When we're thinking about ADHD, zinc plays a key part because it affects focus, dopamine activity, and immune function, and how they emotionally regulate. So when I did his hair test, he was completely deficient of his zinc mineral. Once I put that back into his diet and balanced that out with his copper, he started to calm and slow down and can self-regulate on his own.
And again, this is not something that's even recommended. What you hear often, and I do feel bad for parents who have kids that have ADHD because one, often they don't want to do medication, but they feel like they have to give their kid the benefit. You'll hear diet, but the only thing you often will hear parents told is limit sugar, as if sugar is like the root cause of why ADHD is there. So a lot of parents will attempt to reduce sugar, but not think about the overall diet. But now we're having this conversation about, hey, dyes, they're not good. Red dye is now the hot topic trending, but also just different things like that. So I think even saying your child, even though we think children should have optimal health because they're young, it doesn't mean that they're not also deficient with nutrients, just like adults are. So stepping back and saying diet, processed foods, which one of the things I think is interesting, Shauntra, is that I think the reason that most people are really unhealthy and they struggle is because being healthy is hard. When you decide that you want to be healthy and you're going to give up a lot of things, it's a real one, it's difficult. Two, it tends to be slightly expensive. Hence, this is why people are often okay with processed foods, which are not good for you, because processed foods are cheaper than often healthier foods. And then cooking healthier foods and figuring out how to be well-rounded is hard. Hence, this is why I think a lot of people often opt not to have a good diet because it feels really challenging. But at least if they knew what they needed to address, that can make a difference. Okay, so ADHD, we talked about zinc and some things that could affect that. For me, I am the poster child of menopause. If you don't know, you know now. Everyone knows that about me. There are 34 known signs of menopause, and I probably have half of them easily. I have tried to roll back, try things. I've tried to be very holistic as I can. It works okay, but I realize I've got some deficits, hence that's why I'll be seeing you, because I'm on a path that was leading me down to where you are before I discovered you. So now I'm like, I need to learn some more root cause things about the things I'm experiencing. But let's talk about insulin resistance. because I feel like that comes up for women during menopause, or it's talked about, and women have no idea. Like, okay, so what does that mean, and why would I have it during menopause?
So menopause, the way I approach menopause is more than just an estrogen conversation, which is very funny because now they changed the name of it overall too. They're trying to incorporate more things, which is stress, diet, gut health, and mental health to play a part in that menopause experience. A lot of the women that I'm working with who are experiencing menopause, we all know, are going through like hair thinning, sleep disruptions, insulin resistance, fatigue, and mood swings. But overall, the body is chronically stressed and has been stressed for such a long period of time. It's pushing you into what we call this menopause. So when we're looking at this, we also need to be focusing on your cortisol patterns, your mineral depletion, inflammation in your body. Is that high? Is it low? What your blood sugar is doing? What is that gallbladder, that kidney? How is that functioning? Are you holding on to too much insulin? Is it being released too much in your body? Because all those things can influence the state of what menopause is. So two examples of a mineral deficiency with someone with menopause is zinc to iron and selenium, which are all important for hair growth, thyroid support, and tissue repair. So when I have a woman who's coming to me and she's saying my hair is thinning, my doctor's thinking about putting me on thyroid medication, my tissue, bones, or anything feels out of whack, well, I'm going to instantly look at that zinc, iron, and copper balance in your mineral test to see what those play a part. Usually those are all deficient. Another one is magnesium support, because magnesium supports insulin sensitivity. So if you have a low magnesium, high calcium, remember calcium's that chronic fatigue buffering system, then we're going to be looking into blood sugar regulation, which can become more challenging during menopause. So those are the key minerals that I look at for someone who is suffering through menopause.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned certain things. Like, oh, I'm glad you just kind of touched on the hair loss thing. Yes, a very sensitive thing for me. It has been just so difficult. But I'm finding now, because everybody's interested in menopause, which I think is great. It annoys me a little bit, only because that's what my dissertations focus on. So before it became the hot topic, like 5 or 6 years ago, I was reading all these studies and educating myself, because no one was talking about it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. It's such a life-changing thing for women. But now I notice, I feel like a lot of people will market to the insecurities that people develop. And fellas, you also have your version of menopause. It's called andropause. And you also have some similar issues. So don't think that you're out of this conversation, because you also could benefit from some things that you probably don't realize that you're suffering from. So it's interesting that everyone's pushing hair, but here's what they'll talk about. And if women don't, if they're not educated, they just think, I'm going to go buy this product. They will, and it is true. Estrogen loss does affect a lot of things, because you have estrogen receptors throughout your body. It's not just a reproductive type hormone. It has a lot of things. Mood shifts because estrogen drops, because it regulates mood. So it's interesting that they're telling women, though, it's probably because of estrogen, or that's dropping, and now you've got a rise in testosterone or DHT. And because women hear this, they think that's got to be the root cause of why their hair is thinning or they're losing it, not realizing it's really bigger than that. It's more than that. And I'm glad you mentioned that there are other things that could play into this. So treat your issues as an individual situation, and not as, I'm part of a group. Yes, you are a woman and you might be a man that's having these symptoms, but like, it's like this. Just because you have trauma does not mean that your trauma is the same as somebody else's.
Yes.
Never trauma. We talk about trauma bonding. Don't menopause bond, because it doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? You have the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, who could benefit from working with you? Because I know a lot of people threw questions at me. They said, Maya, okay, so I have been told I'm pre-diabetic, or I go in and my lab say my cholesterol is rising and I'm doing stuff and it's not coming down, or, hypertension. Okay, what do I do? Because someone told me these are things that are coming down the pipeline, and told me to change my diet. And I've tried that. I eat Cheerios every day, or whatever, and my cholesterol isn't dropping. Now what?
Well, we need to look at minerals again. Everything that I do always is going to come back to a mineral, because there's a connection in it somehow, some way. So typically people that, or area of focus that I like to stay in is people who are experiencing adrenal fatigue and burnout, chronic stress, hormonal imbalances, mineral depletion, gut health, fatigue, mood support, and blood sugar regulation, because all those play a part. So if you have someone who is saying that I have high cholesterol, I have high blood pressure, I'm going to look at your minerals off the jump. And again, it's going to point back to that calcium and to that magnesium ratio to see what's happening. Also, the diet too. Journaling is always going to be important for me when I'm working with someone one-on-one. So sometimes I may ask for a food journal, or sometimes I might just create something for you just to see if anything shifts. A lot of times we are thinking that we have all this hypertension and gallbladder and liver issues, where it's just a deficiency. And that's the missing piece with traditional medicine. We're not looking at the deficiencies. They're just looking at what's happening and what is considered normal range compared to the general population. This is so individualized. It becomes an emotional state for not only myself, but for the client as well, because you're able to see the habits that you have incorporated into your day-to-day life and how they're affecting your health. It's not what anyone else is doing. It's the choices that you're making overall when it comes to what you're eating, what you are exposed to in your environment. For someone, just for a simple example, if you like Bath and Body Works, nothing against them, but let's say you like going there and you have all these wall plugins and candles and the body lotions. Well, all those things have toxins in it. So we're looking at, that's how deep I go. Like, what are you using on your skin? What are you using in your hair? What are your toothpaste? Because something is creating this imbalance and deficiency. If you're saying on the outside, you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, even from a healthy individual standpoint who works out, takes their protein and takes their minerals, takes their vitamins, but there's still something off, but they love burning candles. Well, those candles are disrupting your hormones. So let's clean out your atmosphere as much as possible. It's about learning how to be really aware of what you're doing on the outside and help you paint the picture of those symptoms and connect it to the choices that you're making. And that goes over for anyone that I work with, women, men, minors. It's all going to be the same thing. That's how consistent you need to be with your health, and that's how aware you need to be with your health.
So it sounds like what you just touched on, which most people probably never thought, I'll be honest, and I love candles. Even though I just mindfully just decided to only burn soy candles, just for no real reason. Because now that you mentioned like Bath and Body Works, and White Barn, people love those candles. But you're right, environmental is huge. And now I'm thinking about once I was speaking with someone, for instance, who's having chronic health issues, and it turns out there was a mold issue in their house and they had no clue because mold doesn't jump in your face. Like it could be under the paint. Sometimes you can see it if it gets really bad, but not always.
Mm-hmm.
Or you might have been in an older home and it was, how lead-based paints created issues and things like that. So environmental factors. The other thing that made me think about is I used to have a job. I have a job now too, by the way, but I'm just funny. I have a job now, but I used to work at this place and every time I'd go to work, my allergies would kick off every time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the feel. And I, in my mind, I was convinced it was something about the filtration in the air. Because every time the air would kick on, I would instantly get itchy. My eyes would get itchy. I'd start sneezing. So I had to take something every time, especially in the warmer months,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that didn't happen. I was usually okay in the winter, but when they would turn on the air, all of a sudden my allergies. And I think that's another thing too, talking to people about their home environments. Like, are you the person? Do you change those filters in your furnace? What cleaning products? What do you wash your clothes in? There's a host of things that play into skin health, all these things, but we never stop and think about it because
Mm-hmm.
we're accustomed just to going through the motions. So environment, when you just said that, I don't think that clicked for a ton of people so what, my plug-in that makes everything smell great is maybe not the best thing for me.
Right. And there's other ways to go about it. Like I know we all love these luxury things and we feel like we need to do it and need it, but you also have to remember it's about being a consumer and what are you consuming that's going to affect your overall well-being. Your house can still smell wonderful, but let's get some pure organic natural essential oils. Let's get a really good air purifier or diffuser. Like it's learning how to shift the mind. Always, everything is always going to be about shifting the mindset for every avenue, every
Yeah.
system that's a whole. So those things are really important. Those things are really key, and that's what I bring to the table when I'm working with someone, compared to someone else. Now, everyone does their own thing. You know, everyone practices their own way, but anything that I bring to the table when it comes to my clients are things that I did for myself. So I'm living, walking proof and a testament of how these changes can create a change overall in your home and within yourself. And that's really important for me in my business and working with my clients, to advocate for them in a way where they don't even think of, and then they start to think of it of their own, and then now you can do it on your by yourself.
Fantastic. Shauntra, this is everything that I knew it would be. And by the way, I'm gonna share a couple comments in here because I think people are definitely like loving what you're saying. You know, somebody kind of chimed in and said this is very informative, and this is exactly why I wanted to do this show.
Mhm.
I have another person who wrote in and said, "Hey, they monitor what their daughter was taking in and restricting sweets and candies." Well, now you're probably like, "Guess what? No pizza." No, I'm just kidding. We can't get that out of control. But definitely, people are seeing the value. So, with that being said, you know, when I came across you, I was absolutely like, "You're amazing. I have to have you on the show." People, I'm going to tell you something. This is worth having a consultation with her to see how this goes. And I'm going to say something. When I found out what working with you cost, I was like, "What? Okay, working with you right now um, is less than in most places 2 tanks at 2 gallons of gas for real."
Right.
Now that depends on where you live at though. So if you're in Illinois, gas is up around five something. So when I tell you that pretty much 3 gallons of gas is more than working with you on a monthly
Mhm.
basis,
Mhm.
that's powerful. So I'm telling you, I have just given you a resource if you've been struggling with your health that you didn't see coming. And we're gonna partner and do more and break down even more. Like take
Yes.
take a topic and like really break that topic like ADHD or something more to really fill people in. But this
Mhm.
is the start. So I'm telling people, if you feel like you're not seen or heard by your traditional medicine practitioner, look, that's fine. Work with somebody who can empower you so that if you're stuck working with, because I hate to say this, I feel like a lot of physicians are just not as passionate about their job as they used to be. Healthcare has become a business, no matter how much we feel about it. What's the best? I always tell people the best way is to educate yourself, but it's not about just jumping on the internet because that's a whole bunch of information that may not apply to you. But working with someone like you can empower people to understand their health and their wellness. So when they're talking to their then other practitioner that they have to see for, if they're into traditional medicine, now they're more informed about what they're dealing with. And I
Mhm.
think that's a whole nother way to kind of shift and be healthier. So one, obviously they can go to your website, which is www.changemindsetcoaching.com. They can
Mhm.
find you on Facebook at Change Mindset Wellness, and you're on Instagram at mindset_wellness_coach. Make sure you do that. I make it easy. If you scan the QR code up there in the corner, it's going to take you right to the website. And of course, you can get to you social media that way as well. So I try to make it easy for people. But I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be the best less than 3 gallons of gas you've ever spent in your life. And it could be the thing that if you're struggling with, let's say diabetes, a lot of things you can correct where you're going or even fix it. But
Yeah.
you have to work with somebody that isn't about just giving you a prescription.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
Sandra,
Mhm.
thank you for coming on. This has been fantastic. I look forward to our partnership.
Yes.
I'm going to be one of your clients because I've got some things that I need to resolve. So guys, I'm doing it because I've tried everything I could to resolve some things and I'm not getting the results that I want. So I'm taking it
Mhm.
to the pro. There you go.
Mhm.
All
Yes,
right.
I really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. You have been nothing short than absolutely amazing.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I want everyone to know that if it's something else that you're dealing with, please reach out. We can figure it out. This is just what my baby is, my passion with adrenals and chronic stress. But you have access to over 20,000 different functional labs when we work together. We can pinpoint whatever it is that you need. Men, women, and minors are all accepted into my practice, and I hope you are all well. Learn something, and remember, it's about changing your mindset.
It's about changing your mindset for sure. All right. Thank you, Shanta. Pleasure to have you on the show. Everybody, it's really, maintaining your health is not easy. It's not. But when you are informed, that makes you empowered and you can make different choices and have a healthier life. So remember, health and wellness is not one size fits all. So the thing I want in your first mindset shift to be is stop thinking when you see that product that promises that it can regrow your hair or that it can help you just lose all the weight. Nothing is that simple. I'm going to tell you something that is the biggest trend, and I see people have success and then fail and get very frustrated. If you're struggling with your weight, you should really work with someone to figure out, what is my deficiency? Why do I struggle with my weight? Is it hereditary? Or is it maybe I need a different type of diet? It could be something just that simple. But if you don't do that exploration, you don't know. Yes, GLP-1 could be great. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't teach people the lifestyle changes they need to make to sustain the weight loss that maybe they've acquired. And most people who use them will find they lose the weight and gain it all back because they didn't change their mindset and be smarter about their nutrition and be healthier. But the thing is, you don't even have to go that direction. You can partner with someone like Shauntra to help you figure out, why do I struggle with losing weight? I thought I was just destined to be like a fat girl. Well, maybe not. Maybe it's about the lifestyle you've lived, what you've been taught, how you eat, if you don't work out. And it could be something maybe just at a cellular level that you don't even know how you metabolize your food. Those are the things you need to know about you. You're a unique individual, and trying to make yourself fit into the box with others is maybe why you've never had the success in many things in life that you have sought out. So everyone, thank you for listening to the podcast. I appreciate that. The whole purpose of what I do here is to identify how we can find the things that you want to fix so you can have the ambition, you can harness that motivation you need to grow and to make the changes. And I'll tell you, change isn't easy. When I work with people in therapy, I'll tell them, we're here to do work. And sometimes we're going to have to break eggs more often than not to be able to get you where you need to be. And doing that work might be hard, but the reward is always worth it. These episodes have been building. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome aboard. There's more than 90 episodes you can go listen to. You can find episodes of the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Spotify. Pretty much if it's a podcast platform, you can find me. Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition. You can always listen to episodes as well on my website, maya-speaks.com. Everything M.A.Y.A is there. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, obviously that's going to help you know when episodes are coming up. It's M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. I finally got it together with my social media. So that's my handle for everything. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, or X at M.A.Y.A Speaks to You. I'm on TikTok, but I haven't got my TikTok weight up yet. I'm working on it. So I'm not there. So if you go there, you might see one video. That's it. So I'm trying to get my TikTok up to a better level, but those are the ways that you can find me by getting social. I've actually done something where I really try to make things super simple. I have an app. Yes, there is an app. So you can actually take me on the go and not have to worry about this. So you can find the app pretty much in the Apple Store and Amazon. You can scan these QR codes. Oh, by the way, it's now finally in the Google Play Store as well. All you do is have to search the M.A.Y.A experience. So everything from listening to the podcast, watching the podcast, I do have some blogs. I have a menopause blog that I am fully committed to because I want women to be informed so they can be empowered because it's just a life change. It doesn't have to be something that's awful for you. So I also have an inspirational blog there. I give you a weekly thought to have that can help you change your mindset. All that is right there on my app. So you can make your life easy and just go to the Apple Store, Amazon Store, or Google Play and just download the M.A.Y.A experience and voila, everything you need is right there. All right, everybody. That's it for the show. I appreciate your time. We had a good listening base. Everybody was very active and listening and making great comments. I appreciate that. So until next time, I always tell people, remember this. Your present becomes your past and your future is no more. So live every single day to the fullest and live it on your terms. The next inspirational thought for next week is going to be big. I want to get you ready for it so you can start pondering this. What's your idea about the idea of unconditional love? Are you setting yourself up for failure because you have sugar-coated the idea of what unconditional love means? That's next week's inspirational thought to help you to do a reset of, are you selling yourself short? More often than not, because of what you think unconditional love is in your relationships. That's going to be an interesting one, so make sure you don't miss it. It's Wednesday, and if you get my app, you'll be ready to go when it drops. All right, everybody, that's it until next time. Have a good one.
Whether you're on the go or listening on your cell phone, tablet, or laptop, you can find the show in the iTunes, Google, and iHeartRadio platforms.
With all due respect, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just search M.A.Y.A, My Ambition, Your Ambition, and get ready to be inspired and motivated to harness your ambition.